Hello, folks. Eagle Spitz here on Desert Island Vids for a special Christmas doing it for the kids. And we've got James Bar Bowen performing for us later at 6:45. And if you've not seen him before, you're in for a treat. And if you have seen him before, you already know you're in for a treat. So I've got him with us now on Desert Island Vids. So hello, James.
Hi, how you doing? All right.
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So, for our viewers who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Right. Well, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm obviously of a, like I say, a similar vintage to yourself, Eagle. So, so I've been, I started off in listening to punk rock and, and the idea of punk rock and music that, music that means something, music that tells stories, music that has a bit of politics, has a bit of anger, all the rest of it. That's where I'm coming from. And then over the decades, I've played, in various bands and stuff like that. But for the most of the last 15, 20 years, I've been doing it solo, mostly me and my guitar. Occasionally I wheel out a couple of other musicians who come and do a bit with me, recording wise, or even gigging. But yeah, most of what I do is solo singer-songwriter stuff. Like I say, coming out of a sort of, I'd say, out of a sort of punk rock box. But then I would throw in a whole mix of all sorts of other stuff. I listen to all sorts of other stuff, and I kind of see, that's also, it's one of the things, we learned from the Clash, wasn't it? That, you start off with punk rock, you start with the first two albums, and then you go to London Calling, which has got jazz, funk, honky tonk, bit of disco, and I think, well, that's where I'm coming from. That's what I've
Excellent.
learned.
I remember Strummer said once when the Clash were getting some shit about changing the music style, he says, we're a fucking punk band. I thought that was meant we could play what we wanted to play.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. And it pisses me off when you kind of get stuck in a box. Much as I love a lot of punk rock, and I love it that there's, even now, go to festivals, things like the 0161 Festival, obviously the Punk for the Homeless stuff, and you get all this stuff that's all there's loud, angry guitars like the original punk rock stuff, but there's so much else to go for, so much else to listen to, so much else to learn from.
Yeah, for me, punk went wrong when it boxed itself in.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be sort of people wearing fucking red Mohicans and stuff. But so, what's your first tune for us, buddy?
Right. Okay. Well. I've picked. I mean, as I've said to you before, the whole idea about trying to knock down into 3 tunes something that means something when it should be about a million. But I've picked one by a good mate of mine. He's a guy called Jacopo di Nicola, who's an Italian bloke who lives in Philadelphia in America. And the reason why I picked this one is because I think it's a great song. In fact, I've even done a cover of it. But as a DIY video, like putting it together, where they've obviously found themselves a really beautiful spot to record and get the musicians in. I think it's an old church somewhere in Philadelphia. But then he cuts it, or the video maker, the filmmaker, cuts it with loads of mostly, I guess, sort of library shots, archive shots of all sorts of stuff, but just really interesting way of putting together kind of a new song, new music, his own original music, but cut with all this different stuff about just like the crazy shit that human beings get up to. Some of it beautiful and amazing, but there's also obviously the song's a bit about kind of about people blowing each other up in the name of their god or whatever their beliefs are, and how crazy that is, and fucking hell, we've got all this technology and we've got all this amazing stuff that we can do. So what do? Well, we decide to find better ways to kill each other. And that I just think, yeah, we really have taken a wrong turn somewhere.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like we've got that technology to kill, which we use to kill. If we use it to feed people, we'd probably sort of get rid of wars.
Yeah, well, and as they say, it's kind of like if they spent some of them, or you look at the budget for weapons, arms, arming each other. If they spent that on clean water and food, the world would be a lot happier place. And maybe we wouldn't have, we wouldn't even have reason to blow each other up and fuck each other up.
Exactly. I mean, it's greed, isn't it? I mean, it's like Gandhi said. There's enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. And so wars are called like greed, aren't they? Whatever the name are done under.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I that's something that I think I got out of punk rock as a kid, and still maintain that. Maintain your idealism. Even in the face of I mean, this year's been a pretty shit year and a pretty grim. I think everybody. I mean, some of the bits of having a bit of peace and quiet and all the rest of it, it's been great. But just the lack of human contact, because what we end up doing is having a chat through a screen or something like this. But I feel like that I just miss the going to gigs, playing gigs, going having a beer, talking to people, and some of the doing these online gigs has been I find a bit of a difficult one, because you don't get all that, you don't get the build up, and you don't get the come down afterwards. It's like you in your living room or whatever, recording your gig, and then you watch some other people in their living rooms recording their gig. But we don't go to the bar and go and have a pint and have a chat, or go and have a smoke outside and have a chat, and just that human contact thing, I does my head in.
Yeah, it's certainly been a weird year, isn't it?
Yeah. But you never know what's next.
Oh, well, idiots about a fucking far right government, and what do they expect?
Well, there is always that. Yeah. Although to be fair, if you take the long view, I wouldn't even wish this on those bunch of bastards in Westminster now to try and sort this one out, because they, it's a bit of a no-win situation unless somebody comes up with a better solution.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I can understand the difficulty, but I think they've also tried to use it for their own ends. And I think,
absolutely, lining the pockets of their mates.
Yeah.
But then that's not a surprise, is it?
No, it didn't surprise me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Right, viewers, you can find James's tracks in the links, because Facebook wouldn't let us put them up there in the first place in the video, and YouTube will stop us doing that as well now, bastards. So, but you make sure you check out James's tracks, because new stuff. Most two out of his three songs were new to me, apart from his next one, which I'll get him introduced now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next one is a woman called Sister Rosetta Tharpe. And I only discovered this a few years ago. Somebody showed it to me. And I just thought, wow, that's the way to go. You've got basically a middle-aged Black American woman playing a live gig in a disused railway station in South Manchester, and just playing the most amazing rock and roll guitar. And I just thought, that brings together so many different things about, you can do this, you can be creative about where you put on gigs. Everybody can do it. Everybody can get out there and do it, which is, is basically back to your punk rock thing. Pick up an instrument, make something happen, make it, and do your own thing. And I just thought that I mean, I've put on the link, actually. There's the link to Didn't It Rain, but there's also a link to the Granada TV program, which is, I think, 1964. And I think there's the whole thing, which is a bit of a film also, of the people kind of arriving on the train to turn up at the gig. I don't know how much of it's set up or how much of it was for real, but it's just an amazing, I don't know, just slice of history that when you first see it is just like unexpected, but just wow, this is what rock and roll's all about.
Yeah, I'm into a lot of old blues and gospel and jazz and stuff. So somebody sent me that link many years ago. Just fucking blew me away.
Yeah.
You know, it's something else. And obviously, you being black is a bit major problem in the States as it is over here. You know, we have to keep fighting against that racist shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, black people were a lot more limited to where they could play. So I mean, the ingenuity was gone into setting that gig up is something else, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's that idea, you know, like when you get someone like Jimi Hendrix, a black American who didn't really do much in America. It wasn't until he came over to Britain. And you know, Britain's got its shit and it's got its racists and all that nonsense still, you know, even now, 50 years later. But I do think that, you know, in some ways, some of the stuff that's made possible in Europe, compared with, you know, at that time, you still had all the segregation. It was still, you know, a couple of years after Rosa Parks, and you had all the stuff of the, you know, shootings of, you know, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all that. And America, I mean, you know, as we've seen with Trump and the election and all that, you know, America's got a long way to go yet before they start.
Oh yeah. And that has to be down to the people, I think. You know, it's like, had a black prime minister before this fucking idiot has just been voted out.
Yeah.
But I mean, Obama sort of increased the use of drones and stuff. So, you know, that's as bad if you're on the other end of that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the idea. You know, I remember when Obama got elected, I was thinking, wow, this is potentially a great thing. And then you talk to, I mean, like I say, Jacopo in Philadelphia, and he's kind of explored a lot of this stuff. You know, as an outsider, he's Italian born and bred, but he's lived in America for the last 10, 15 years. And he would say, you know, you dig into what, you know, the shit that Obama and all them do or did, and how, you know, vested interest is so deep, and therefore you've kind of got basically a shitty and racist system that still rolls on. But then the other side of that, you know, having been to America a couple of times and, you know, gigged there and stuff, you realise actually that there are so many cool people out there as well. I mean, I think punk rock in America is a different beast to what it is, say, you know, here or in Europe generally, because I mean, partly that's to do with, you know, a lot of social systems in America that it's much more kind of marginalised at some level, but that means you meet some really interesting people. You meet some very fucked up people as well. But then equally, in that what we do in the punk rock scene in Britain, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me,
we're welcoming and open.
Yeah, totally. I think it's 2011. I did a punk party tour of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And every American I met was absolutely lovely. They went the extra mile every time to help me out.
Yeah. And yet, I mean, yeah, it's like you say, in the Midwest, I remember, you know, we did some gigs, you know, driving down through Missouri into Texas and stuff like that. And you think this is the heart of the Bible Belt and all this mad stuff. But the people who came to the gigs and that were just fantastic and just lovely. And yet you go to the local shopping mall and there's huge adverts, you know, you know, you've got, you know, an advert for the local church, and then the next advert underneath it's for the local gun shop, and you just think, wow, this is
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I think being a Christian anarchist, I mean, I don't often think that many of the Bible Belt have actually read the Bible, because you know, it's like, how the fuck can you vote for a homeless, worship a homeless refugee, and fucking vote for Trump? You know, makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know.
So tell us a little bit about your own music, mate.
Right, what's that?
Tell us a little bit about your own music.
Right, my own music. Well, like I say, I do most of mine on an acoustic guitar and sing. Neither of which my guitar playing or my voice I would say, you know, is like a nightingale. But I enjoy it. I try and write my own stuff, and very influenced by. I saw your Joe Solo Desert Island Vids the other day, and just that talking about Stiff Little Fingers. You know, they were big for me. They were an important band because I like the songwriting. It's funny, it's intelligent, it's angry, it's, you know, and that's what I try and do is yeah, not I don't tend to write songs which are kind of very reactive to an event that's happened or something that's gone on now, but try and get a broader view, get a wider picture of it. You know, and sometimes because I like words, you know, I've always played with words a lot, and I did a degree in languages and linguistics and stuff. So I always think the idea of you know, writing songs as well is it's kind of poetry. It's kind of like playing around with words and images and ideas, but also with a you know, really heartfelt sort of politics underneath it, and a politics about yeah, freedom and liberation and looking after each other. And I mean, yeah, I would suggest probably the teachings of Jesus Christ if we were to go there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, for me, it's like, I can't remember who said it, but, you know, somebody said that Christianity's not been tried and found wanting. It's never been tried.
Yeah.
You know, fucking religion gets in the way of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it links for state, and then you get even more oppression.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking about sort of writing poetry, you know, seeing your lyrics as poetry. I mean, I do exactly the same thing, I think, because I do the punk poetry gigs.
Yeah.
But a lot of my poems end up as songs in the band as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting, you know, we could have a long discussion about this, about what is the difference between writing a song and writing poetry. And I think, you know, maybe it's one of them Venn diagrams where they're linked, you know, and sometimes you write a song specifically, but I know that I very often when I'm writing a song is I start with an idea or a feel for how the music might be. But then, like I say, then the words, you know, I think it's really important to get exactly the right bit in the right place at the right time, and then that's a really powerful thing. So
yeah, I think I'm a bit of a lyric snob. I mean, if I'm listening to something and something doesn't work lyrically for me, even if it's very little, yeah, it blows the whole song for me, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, like saying about, you know, my music, my songs, I would say I'm very influenced by, you know, bands like New Model Army, who I think write some great songs, you know. But also, you know, as I say, I also go back through, you know, there are some great songs which I absolutely love, which don't have a deeply political undercurrent or whatever. You know, there's nothing wrong with a fantastic soul song that's just a love song or whatever. But to me, there's a real importance that, you know, music is for pleasure, it's for having fun, it's for doing stuff, but it's also about kind of reflecting the big bad world out there as well, and trying to, you know, make the world a better place as well. You know, it's the function.
Well, there's no excuse not to do that, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Talking about your lyrics, though, a couple of our gigs, we've had people's eyes open to a few things you've said, and people sort of talked to me about it. You know, one of them was particularly the Butcher's Apron, which wasn't common knowledge to a lot of punk people.
Right. Oh yeah. Now the Butcher's Apron, you know, that was a song that I wrote only about 3 or 4 years ago, but I really wanted to write a song about kind of it sort of came. I mean, it's been something I've been chewing over for a decade, particularly when, you know, before the big banking crisis and all that, and there was all that shit about people being given all these massive bonuses who worked in the city and all that, and then justifying it and saying, well, yeah, we work really hard, so we justified our £1 million a year bonus or whatever. And I just think everybody I know works really hard in all sorts of ways, not just in jobs, but in life generally, to try and keep you know, body and soul together. Nobody I know gets these ridiculous bonuses. So I wanted to write a song about who does the really shit jobs, and particularly kind of trying to have an angle on the things that we don't always see, that, you know, that, and it's all about class really. It's all about, you know, that kind of the ruling class, and again those bastards in government at the moment kind of see us, the scum, as not worthy of the same stuff as them, the same, you know, because we're not as good as them somehow. And I just see that, you know, that is such an insult. That is such a it's kind of dehumanizing. It kind of, you know, and so, yeah, so the butcher's apron. But then the idea of the butcher's apron, of course, as well, is that it's a phrase that I've heard used. It's a reference to the Union Jack, because the idea of the Union, you know, like a butcher traditionally wears blue and white stripes on their apron, and the idea is if you spill a bit of blood on it, usually a bit of imperialist blood, you get something that looks kind of like a Union Jack. So the idea is it's a nickname for the Union Jack, and I know that a lot of people also like waving their stupid flags about how proud we are to be British. That equally is this kind of exceptionalism, that we're better than that lot over there or that lot over there. And, you know, that doesn't work for me. It never works for me.
No, I mean, I find it really odd that people are proud to be, you know, proud to be, you know, to be British, because that's where the mum and dad shagged.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I used to think about getting a Fort Cortina tattooed on my arm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Have you ever come across she's a woman who lives in Wales called Tracy Curtis, and she used to write a really nice song about that sort of idea of patriotism and being really proud of your country or whatever. But it's not about being proud of these symbols of empire or the flag or whatever. It's about actually the people who live around here. Most of them, they're all right. Most of them are good people. So yes, I am proud of where I come from. I am proud of my contacts and my friends, but I'm also really proud of those of my friends who live in Germany or Sweden or France or New Zealand or wherever. You know, equally they're good people, and what we share is being human beings, not accident of birth, like you say. It's an accident of history and an accident of geography. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously,
the people I'm really proud of at the moment is the 73 orphan girls we look after in Sierra Leone. And say the guy who took them in with his mum and young brother, and there's 76 of them live in a 3-bedroom house now. But, you know, they're making do what they got, and we always perform at the Girls Are Loud shows for us. Yeah, they haven't given up, and I think, you know, it's a hell of a lesson to learn, that we don't have to give up. You know, shit might be against us, but we've still got one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, you know, just thinking about, you know, a lot of the stuff again, like Joe Solo and guys like that doing all this stuff, and Pauline Town in Ashton. I know that a lot of the guys from the 0161 Festival are doing loads of good stuff about distributing, women's sanitary products and food and other things like that, basically to people who are in financial straits. So I, you know, and that, that makes me proud of, like, that people go the extra mile. People are actually putting in the effort. You know, and it's so important that we do that, and kind of, you know, leading by example as well, and say, actually, it's possible to live our own, you know, little lives, but also have a kind of perspective that's much bigger than that, much wider than that, and make the world a better place.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think we've all learned that the government isn't going to do that. So, you know, if we don't look after one another, we don't feed one another, nobody else is going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's kind of, you know, again, we could have a very long discussion. So next time I see you, we'll have a beer and talk about this, because it's one of the things that a lot of us have been talking about over the course of the pandemic and all the rest of it, is what is the role of government, and what is the possibility that we can kind of create non-government, more kind of democratic and direct action and us controlled means of looking after each other, when what we've got such a problem of kind of inequality of wealth and stuff like that. And in some ways, how do we do that? How do we, because one of the obvious tools to redistribute wealth or to help us, as a society, make sure that the stuff gets to the right place. The state is one of the tools that you could use for that. And then, from my political perspective, similar to yours, I don't trust the state, because the state is so often used as a tool to not do that, but to focus the wealth with the rich, and to control, and to it's one of those it's kind of unanswerable questions, but one of those questions that I think we do need to start talking about.
Yeah, and I think for me, I guess I'm a bit of an optimist really, because I see more and more people pushed out of society.
Yeah.
But more and more people who are pushed out helping one another and building a new society.
Yeah.
I think as Dorothy Day said, rip the guts out of the old system and build community in a shell of the old.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And it's how do we do that? Because the cards are stacked against us in so many ways, because big business, because the media, all the rest of it is all working for their own interests, not ours. And we yes, we get the crumbs. Some of us, we're doing all right. We're not starving. We've got a warm house to live in or whatever. But it's still not all right that there are so many people who fall through the cracks.
Well, I live in Nottingham, and in some areas of Nottingham, there's 80% levels of child poverty, and it's fucking disgusting in a rich country. I mean, we live in a rich country, but it's not. It's not measured on how well the people are doing. It's what a few have got in their pockets.
Yeah, which is just bullshit, really. But again, like I say, how do we do the redistribution apart from going around the rich people's houses and nicking their stuff, which is just a thought. But I'll leave that with you.
Yeah. Well, obviously we can't condone that on this channel, but if you feel that's what you need to do, folks, and that's up to you. But please do something.
Yeah, and it's kind of the important point is look after each other. Look at really that's the point. I mean, we were talking about this today about the difficulty about how do you know if everybody is doing all right? Because I know a lot of musicians who've really struggled mental health wise and all the rest of it, because basically we've had the rug pulled out from under our feet. And some of us have managed to cobble together a bit of a living and all the rest of it. But I know hundreds of people. I'm sure you do, Eagle, all over Europe, all over the world. How do you keep an eye on everybody and make sure everybody's all right? But we've got to do it. We've got to find the energy. We've got to find the whatever it is. Yeah.
And especially, I mean, that's especially significant at the moment with COVID-19.
Yeah.
I was involved in setting up, because I'm an ex-community psychiatric nurse, medically retired, but a few years back I helped set up a mental health drop-in.
Yeah.
Which is going really well, and people were supporting one another big time within that. But along comes COVID, and people can't meet up, so it's like it increases the difficulty of looking out for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it is, it's like I say, it is a case of, you got to go around your neighbours and knock on the door and check they're all right, or give your mate a bell. And I know with social media, there's a lot of, I mean, social media is such a, a double-edged sword, isn't it? That on the one hand, it's great because we can keeping in touch with each other and chatting to your mates. And, I'm going, regularly having a beer with my mates in Hamburg. Online on Zoom or on another thing, fairmeeting.net, and that's fantastic. So we do that, and we never used to do that because all I would do is when I saw them, we'd go and have a beer, and that would be great. Um, but there is also the problem, I think, with, you know, and particularly I think this affects a lot of young people, but it also affects us older ones, is that idea that what people put up on Facebook or put up on Instagram is the beautiful them. It's the beautiful life they're having. It's the beautiful photos they've taken. It's, I've done this. And even with the musicians, there's this sort of end of year thing at the moment where people put up their stats for the year. Oh, well, I've been listened to by 1 million people in 39 countries and all that. And I think that is, it can be a boost for yourself to say, okay, look, I'm doing all right. But it can also be such a destructive thing to the people who are struggling, who are thinking, actually, my life's a bit more shit than that. You know, and again, it's kind of like thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and looking after each other.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's like if somebody's pretending to be doing really well and you're not, it's gonna mess with your fucking head. You think you should be doing okay.
Yeah.
When I mean, nobody's doing okay during lockdown, are they? Really? I don't think.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, a lot of people are making the best of a bad job, kind of thing. But yeah, it's all right. It's hard. Yeah.
Anyway, let's have, on a brighter note, what's your next song, buddy?
Well, okay, my third song I picked, and actually I picked this particularly because he's a friend of mine called Harry Gump, who's a singer-songwriter from Munich in the south of Germany. And this song, I have the, you know, it's a bit narcissistic because is actually one little shot of me in the video he's done. But again, I think it's a really nice sort of self-made film, and just basically the idea is he's got lots of people, particularly holding up a word here, and the, you know, the song's in German, but it's all about how we, you know, we again, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about looking after each other and challenging the hate and the bullshit that is out there in the world, and say look after each other. It's also got a strong nod to stuff around you know, that idea of you know, blaming, you know, particularly the Islamophobic stuff about blaming Muslims when an atrocity happens, because as if it's all the Muslims' fault or whatever. Now I don't have a God, but I absolutely respect the right of people to worship their God in the way that they do, and I genuinely believe that a lot of people genuinely believe in a God in a really good sort of way, because they understand, like we're saying, you know, the teachings of Jesus Christ or whatever. So anyway, so Harry's song is all about saying, okay, let's remember that first and foremost we're human beings, and there's, you know, a lot of the people in the film, they hold up the word mensch, you know, like mensch is a human being, and it's like, am I not just a human being like you are, like we all are? And that's the key message. So I thought, but the reason why I particularly thought of it today was because I got in the post today a new CD from my good mate Harry Gump. He sent me an email or a Facebook message the other day saying, yeah, please write to Santa Claus and tell him what your address is. So I wrote back to Santa Claus, I've been a good boy this year, and finally my CD arrived. So I'm very pleased with that. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Excellent. Have you spent much time in Germany?
Yeah, well, I mostly, I gig far more in Germany and on the continent than I do in Britain. So who knows how Brexit affect that, because I think we're going to have to go back under the radar. So it's always been a case of stick your guitar on your back and take your merch with you, get on a train or fly out there, and then go and do a load of gigs. And now, of course, after Brexit, that's not going to be permissible. I mean, because like I say, I've gone and done gigs in America, and you do have to go in under the radar,
yeah,
as a tourist. Which a friend of mine always said, you know, the best thing is you just say, yeah, I brought my guitar because I've come to learn how to play country and western music from the experts.
Brilliant.
So I don't know if in Germany I'll have to go in and say, well, I've come to play Umpa music in Bavaria or something.
Yeah,
Anyway, but
totally.
we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, you know, again, the challenge of Brexit and the challenge of COVID is like how we're going to come out of this and say, okay, next year, I'm probably going to have to do a lot more gigs in Britain. But I think, you know, we do have a fantastic network of the kind of the punk rock underground, the political folky underground, and all the rest of it. Where, you know, this is where we're going to have to also look after each other, put on some gigs, make sure that we all get out there, make sure that our music gets out there, and again, just make a bit of human contact, because, you know, I know that a lot of people have just kind of been desperate.
Totally. My favourite place in the whole world is Berlin, and that's not going to be so easy and not so often to get over now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we shall see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think on a tourist ticket, we'll be able to go everywhere. But I think as soon as you start looking like you might be going out to do some gigs and stuff, then suddenly it's going to get more difficult. You know, because we left the club. So.
I remember when I went over to do the punk poetry tour in the States.
Yeah.
My whole case was full of Punk for Homeless t-shirts to flog over.
Yeah, and they say, oh, yeah, excuse me, sir, you seem to have 93 Punk for the Homeless t-shirts, all different sizes. Are they all yours? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This small one seems a bit small, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I had one when I went into, actually, I think the last time I went to America, which a couple of years ago, I went with Johnny Campbell. And I got pulled over at coming into New Jersey airport, and they dumped me in this room and left me to sweat for an hour. And then this bloke comes up and invites me over, and he says, "Okay, Mr. Bowen, which part of the military were you in, and what were you doing?" And it's like, what? So I said, and he got a. I don't know. This was his opening gambit, was to try and catch me on the hop. But it was just like staggering. It's like, you know, I've just come here to play my guitar, so don't get me hard time. But anyway, I got away with that one though. As soon as I denied everything and didn't get deported or anything. But I have heard of people getting deported. So
yeah. Well, we're running out of time, mate, so I'm going to say cheerio. But yeah, it's been great to catch up. And
absolutely, yeah, and looking forward to my gig later. Yeah, and there's loads of good stuff on it. It's going to be a bit of a cracking do, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I mean, as always, it's always good fun. It'd be much more fun to do it all under one roof. But we'll do that next year, eh?
Well, let's hope so, buddy. Let's hope so.
All right.
All right, man. You take care. Thanks for being on, buddy.
All right. Great to see you, mate. Yeah. Cheers. I'll see you later. Yeah.
Cheers, man.